This is things you might not have heard. I am Jake Living Payne. I'm here for you with 8 stories queued up for this Thursday. Stories from yesterday, the Wednesday, that you deemed as conversational. So that's why they're picked here to talk about here. These are stories that you say are worthy of chatting up, covering information, politics, current events, and pop culture news. Today, breaking news is something that happened late last night, but as I was wrapping things up and literally going to bed, but it's the top story going on everything right now. So it's a DC aircraft collision. We'll have that to top things off today. Plus, plenty of Donald Trump stuff because he still had his day. Plus, Harvey Weinstein and Bob Menendez, two other guys you really don't want to talk about, but we're talking about it here because you guys said you actually want to talk about them. Now, we'll explain the full vetting process after we go through all of the headlines, so stick around for that. But first, a quick reminder, our website for everything you need to know about us is theconversationproject.com. Find out all you need to know and maybe some things you didn't think you need to know, but it's there as well, along with email, so you can conversate with us any way you want to, along with commenting in the videos, of course. The conversation inbox at gmail.com. Today is Thursday, January the 30th, 2025. We're ready to give you those 8 stories. No particular order other than the narrative that they come through. In fact, the story we have on the passenger jet literally didn't not having time to get any actual responses because I woke up to it and it's been going on all night long. So this is what we're going with because it's the big one. Everything else just falls in line for the best way to basically tell the narrative and hopefully keep the E ratings off because we get kind of nasty in some cases. Story number one, as we said, it's the biggest story right now going forward, and it's going to overtake all headlines for quite some time. And that's passenger jet with a 64 people on board collided with an Army helicopter while landing at the Reagan airport last night, happening about 9-ish or so Eastern time last night. Passenger jet carrying 60 passengers and 4 crew members collided with a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter approaching Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport near D.C. Across the Potomac River, resulting in both aircraft crashing into the water. As far as we can tell, no survivors found at all. The passenger jet was an American Eagle flight originating from Wichita, Kansas. The Army Black Hawk helicopter was conducting some training missions for the collision. The exact number is not confirmed, but as you see, 18 bodies were recovered from when I pulled the data from the news articles. No actual survivors were found. In fact, at this point in time, it's 5:45 Central Time. As sunlight's coming up, they're expecting to turn this operation from a rescue mission to a recovery mission because they don't expect anyone to survive over 9 hours in the cold waters overnight. The first 300 responders involved in rescue efforts contending with cold and windy conditions all night long, freezing conditions in the water, and of course, dark, murky waters in the Potomac. Now, a lot of things are going back and forth to make this more interesting. And interesting is not the really word I want to use with that, but it is what's going on. One thing is the fact that why does this happen? Location. Aircraft, or at least training missions along the Potomac, is something that's fairly common for the military to do right there. And flying into Reagan Airport is fine. There are many airports in the area. Reagan is one that, based off of just the congestion in the city, many folks, they're members of Congress, the House and the Senate, essentially push to keep this one open so they get direct flights out of Reagan to various places, so it's easier to get through instead of going to Dulles. Dulles is quite a hassle. Otherwise, you're going on to Baltimore, and then it's a really big deal getting in and out of the city. So that's why Reagan National Airport stays as it is and stays as it is. Now, President Trump weighed on this very early with a Truth Social message, questioning the actions of both the helicopter and the air traffic controllers, suggesting that the collision could have been preventable. Basically, when all doubt comes into doubt, make more doubt. Why was my military folks doing dumb things on the river in the way of that beautiful, beautiful airplane? In fact, he said the approach of the airplane was beautiful. I don't even know where that comes from, but we're going to find out more details. There's many people who have convened on the site. Many reporters are there on site right now to cover this plane crash or plane collision. We don't have a lot of collisions such as this. We've had many happening on runways. We've had some near misses in the air lately, but we don't have any actual misses. And actual collisions in cases like this, especially in a case where it's so close to the ground. In fact, air traffic control actually spoke with the helicopter, who said they saw the plane, so they should be able to maneuver around it. We'll see what happens as we get more details of the actual investigation. Our second headline for today goes back to Trump. And the next couple stories are Trump stories that are basically dealing with the executive orders, all the stuff he has going on. We've covered this. I may have actually did this and just forgot about it, but we covered this in a video early on. So we're not going to use this for a clip going forward. But the Trump administration is looking into ways to pay for all the deportation costs, all the repatriation costs. And they're looking into pulling funds from the TSA and the Coast Guard, because essentially ICE is doing TSA and Coast Guard's duties, keeping the border safe. And because of that, they can pull some funds from various programs, various things to pay for what's going on, the extra stuff ICE is doing. This is going to make up for the shortfall that's obviously happening, because on the budgets, on the dockets, was not flying back hundreds of illegal immigrants, migrants back to their countries every single day in mass. And of course, the mass raids that are expected hadn't been any really mass raids, but they're basically teasing those as coming really soon. So far, between 1,200 and 1,500 individuals have been taken into custody, average of 282 arrests per day in all of 10 days or so. The average cost to deport one single person is about $10,500. That's arrest, detention, and transportation costs. So that money has to come from somewhere. You can, put on your credit card and eventually pay it off, but we have issues with that. For military, for government entities, there are a certain amount of money in their budgets. They get a budget, they have to deal with it. And yes, there are shortfalls. Yes, they go over, and yes, they pull money from different places, and they can run credit, if you will. But something as large as this is something that was not planned for at all by ICE. So they're looking at other places to shift gears, shift duties, shift money. And like I said, the Coast Guard, which guards the coast and guards the borders, and the TSA, which keeps people from flying in and breaking through some border issues, may lose some funding because their job is being done by another method. Concerns being raised by impacts on national security and public safety, because the TSA and the Coast Guard don't have the money to do their primary missions, because they're being taken away because someone else is doing a secondary mission that supposedly is their mission. There's a lot going on here, a lot back and forth as we see with these things. The word unintended consequences has been a theme in the past 10 days as we're seeing those happening going forward. At number 3, this is a newer story that happened, and I'm not sure exactly when it happened, but an executive order happened in the last couple of days, basically a newer one, aimed to combat the anti-Semitism on college campuses. The order includes provisions to cancel student visas and deport non-citizen students who participate in pro-Palestinian protests, such as activities as support of Hamas. Now, the administration argues that these measures are necessary to address what it describes as an increase in anti-Semitic incidents in academic institutions. The executive order actually urges universities to monitor and report activities by non-citizens and basically waive their visas in front of them to say they could be canceled and they could sit at home. The problem is civil rights. Organizations that have the right to free speech, whether they are citizens or not, have that right here in the state, especially on a visa, because there's basically temporary citizens with the past of not doing anything really bad. And it just targets people on political beliefs. The Council on Islamic Relations, or CARE, accuses the administration of smearing students who oppose actions in Gaza, suggesting that the policy conflates legitimate criticism with support for terrorism. And so this is a big deal. You're going to have lawyers going all crazy over this one. But the point about this is, as we are hopefully rounding up all the things for the Gaza-Israeli issues right now and having the conflict done, we still have conflicts with people with various political and just opinions of what thing goes on in regions. There are very, in the good people on both sides argument, there are bad people on both sides, or there are people who are they're not behaving greatly on both sides. And it's been that way for a while. And there are reasons to be complaining about both sides. However, the incident that sparked this is ridiculously, it's just bad. It's just bad. It's just over the top, just so bad. And all of what's the aftermath with the protests and the things and the people here in the States who really aren't doing much but making a lot of noise, but have that right to make that noise based off the Americans' freedom of speech, something we have that's extremely rare around the world, something that's really unique to us. Now, sending people back home for protesting is a way for the administration to say we're protecting our people, but also as a way for administration to sort of do the things they've been doing. And like I said, we see what's happening. There are patterns coming here. And if you're not seeing them, you're either like the pattern that's going on there and want it to happen, or you're not paying attention. There are patterns and you're not paying attention. Let's go to Jerome Powell. because he needs some love. He needs some attention. And he got it by doing nothing this time. He kept the interest rates unchanged and gave no immediate plans for cuts. This happened yesterday with the current rate target from 4.25 to 4.5%. That's where the funds are rate for the Fed's going to keep our interest rates. The decision reflects the Fed's assessment on the U.S. economy and continues to expand at a solid pace. And stable employment rates have a somewhat elevated bit of inflation. So let's keep it where it is. The Federal Open Market Committee emphasized the commitment to achieving maximum employment and long-term inflation rate of 2%. So with all those things being basically stable, even though we have some indicators of things that are being shifting based off some executive orders, Jerome Powell wants to make sure things stay on task, and he's going to keep things exactly where they are. It comes amid external factors such as tariffs and policy changes and other things like that. Essentially, we're going to blame I am so sorry. I'm going to blame the administration and all the crazy Wild West things that are happening in the first 100 days and so far first 10 days that will eventually ripple into other things that will affect factors going forward. Jerome Powell's job is to try to keep everything economically sane. That can be economically sane on his point. And interest rates are something to help, the cost of money helps things go back and forth. We'll see if Powell can actually keep these things stable going forward, and if anything stays stable going forward. Quick break. Apologies for the bit of stumbling, bit of stammering. Long day yesterday. That's my issue, but we're going to get through the stuff. 4 more stories to get to that you help deem as conversation for the day. But right now, a quick stop to ask you to help us grow what's happening. Like, share, and subscribe. If you enjoy what you're seeing, if you like the news coverage you're getting, and you like my commentary, even though I'm a little burpy today and also a little bit tired, little bit of stretch, we're going to make it through. Click the like button on whatever format you're watching this here, either live or in the future. We're on X, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube with this here things you might have heard. Click the like button and it will serve up to more people in the algorithm so more people can watch it, either coming up live or in the future and it pops up in their feeds. You also subscribe. You can also share it with other people who actually enjoy this sort of humor and this sort of news, and getting a big swath of news that isn't exactly what's going on. I can tell you right now, things will be dominated by Trump stuff and the airplane collision, which will also be dominated by Trump stuff because he's interjected already into this story. So we do our best to give you more stories that are more topical, more engaging as well, along with a bit of the big stories as well. So share with people who you think enjoy this type of coverage so they can get it as well. If you're not subscribed to us in your feed, so you get it automatically, or as you check your feed, some people have notifications where they get those notifications where we do members only posts on YouTube, or when we go live for things like this, do that as well. Like, share, and subscribe. Help us grow what's going on. We are very, very close to hitting 1,800 on our subscriber count on YouTube. That's where we do our main engaging. If you're on Facebook and X, we're glad to have you there as well. But if you want to stop by YouTube and subscribe, it would be awesome for all of us. One more Trump-ish story, and this has to deal with the Laken Riley Act. And it's actually 2 stories. It's one story. He threw out a jab that turned it into 2 things. He made it easier for us to cover a whole bunch of Trump yesterday. Yesterday, President Donald Trump officially signed the Laken Riley Act into effect. The law is now in effect in the ceremony at the White House. It mandates detention of undocumented immigrants accused of theft and violent crimes, even before conviction. The act is named after Laken Riley, the 22-year-old nursing student from Georgia who was tragically killed by an undocumented immigrant in 2024. Now, while signing this thing, he dropped another bomb on us that no one really thought was coming. Guantanamo Bay, which has been tried to be closed, not grammatically correct, but something that both Obama tried to close, and then Trump was like, oh, I love this place. And then Biden tried to close it. And Trump's like, no, I really love this place. He says the facilities that I have can house 30,000 undocumented migrants who cannot be deported to the home countries because laws are kind of fuzzy when people down in Gitmo. The biggest problem with folks who are being held in the States is they have to run through trials based off United States sort of laws, which try to be fair, try to be equitable, try to take into account, their innocence before proving guilt. Send down a Gitmo, and then they can sit there for a while till you get to them, which is why there have been people there for 20 years on terrorism charges who've never seen a court room because A little squirrely for folks down in Gitmo. Also, human rights abuses and all sort of things that are down there that are foul of the thing, which is why both Obama and Biden want to get out of there because of the stench that Guantanamo Bay actually has on our nation. Trump thinks it's a great place to house many of these places, especially since we have to find some place anyway. So send them to Gitmo. If they're violent criminals, send them to Gitmo. Let them live down there until they can get to them, if they eventually get to them. The actual burying the lead, Laken Raleigh Act is signed into law, so that this will send away people who are convicted of crimes immediately, even before they go to trial. So why not send them to Gitmo so they may never see trial? This guy, if you're not watching the video, you're not seeing this guy here. But this guy here is Mr. Harvey Weinstein. He wants to get out of Rikers Island. He's not trying to get out of his conviction. He's not trying to really escape the whole, I'm guilty of stuff. But he really, really wants out of Rikers because it's hell. A quote, I can't hold on. I'm begging for you to move the date. I want to be out of this hellhole. He's waiting for yet another trial because these things keep coming up for the overturning of his conviction of his 2020 rape case. So now they're dealing with this one here. And he doesn't like Rikers Island. He's not supposed to like Rikers Island. Now, here's the thing. Rikers Island is getting a lot of talk in the news from the people who are at Rikers Island, and for the fact that for maybe 20 years or so, many folks, advocates in New York City, want it shut down as well for its atrocities as a place to hold criminals. It's not a great place to be. Harvey Weinstein is confirming that. Harvey Weinstein is not a great person to begin with. So this is one case where they might not be so into listening to his pleas for some bit of leniency because of who he is, who he happens to be. One of the talking points for story number 7 has been the fact that Donald Trump was able to get off scot-free from basically any prosecution, from any persecution, from any trial that came up. Yes, he's still dealing with the defamation case, and yes, he was labeled as not a sex offender, not a rapist, but someone who did sexual assault. It's really his semantics that gets in a lot of people's problems. Bob Menendez, the cute, fuzzy former senator from New Jersey, is going to jail for 11 years for a bribery conviction, which his lawyers blamed on his wife because they tried to. Now, his wife has a trial coming up, so he's not going to jail for quite some time because he needs to be around to testify for, against, with his wife. It's all confusing. Basically, he blamed the chick and kind of rolled with it, and it didn't happen, didn't work out. What is he actually charged with? Why is he going to jail? Multiple charges for bribery, extortion, and acting as a foreign agent. Of course, this is the gold bars and the fast cars and things going back and forth, and working for Egypt, of all places. He was ordered to forfeit $922,188.10. I'm not sure why it was 10 cents, but it was there. They tried to get 15 years out of it. They got 11. The gold bars, the luxury vehicles, the big cash funds that were just sitting in his closet, just because you got that going forward. And we'll see what happens. He is 71 years old, and he will have to spend this 11-year sentence in basically regular detention. He will be in his 80s if he fulls the full sentence. Now, this is something that's going to be really, really, really interesting. He tried to run again for his Senate seat. The Democrats wouldn't have him, so he ran as independent to make it happen. He resigned his seat officially in August so he can deal with his trial. And like I said, he still has to be available for his wife's trial, who still has to deal with her own issues. Weren't tried together because they tried to separate it so they can blame her. He can still blame her, but he's still going to jail regardless. And finally, let's talk some DeepSeek AI, because DeepSeek AI is all the rage these days. Here's the thing. The DeepSeek AI is a literally Chinese-based company. It's not like TikTok, which is owned by China but lives in the States. It's not even Marvel Snap, where they were surprised that the pieces that they use that are owned by China shut them down for 3 days as well. DeepSeek is a Chinese chatbot, essentially, and it will chat to you about whatever it can do, much like ChatGPT can do. But if the Chinese don't want to talk about it, they don't want to talk about it. And that's literally what's happening. People who jumped on the free app because it was there, because it was so easy to use, found that while it was easy to talk to and easy to get information out of, some of the information was a bit spotty. In fact, things the Chinese don't want to talk about, such as Tiananmen Square, for a few days, it said nothing. In fact, if you can look at the video or the picture right there, as a picture of asking, hey, tell me about Tiananmen Square. And DeepSeek's like, yeah, I don't really want to talk about that. Can we talk about ponies? It doesn't say ponies, but you get the drift. Why would DeepSeek do that? It is a Chinese-owned app in China. They censor everything. They have some Chinese versions of there's a Chinese version of TikTok that doesn't have all the goofy things that we have here. It's the same general thing, same algorithm, but it has things that what Chinese want to see. So all the people who can complain about either side of their politics on TikTok, because that's where they get their news from, they get one side, the Chinese Communist Party side, off their versions. Red Note, same thing. When people jumped on Red Note, it was a big sort of issue where most of the things were Mandarin because it's a Chinese app. DeepSeek's looking to prove that it can make AI cheaper and faster and easier to go. Although China said they built it for less than $5 million. Most people think, no, probably not. We'll see how this plays out. But the big issue is it's going to affect how AI is dealt with in the future, because it says it can show cheaper versions of AI. Although for most part, people who've kind of dug under the hood so far say it's just basically a ripoff of ChatGPT, which is why it costs so much less. They took something existing and copied it and made it work enough so that it could be seen as a prototype that's good enough to have, but maybe not really good enough to actually want to use. Those are the 8 stories we presented for today. Now it's time to go to our teaser story. This is a headline that, if you deem it worthy, we will chat it up tomorrow in one of the 8 stories we present here. Now, 8 stories is a perfectly defined number, because what we do is on Tuesday through Friday, we give you 8 news stories to cover the day. On Monday, we'll give you 10 because we have 3 days worth of news coverage. But for Tuesday through Friday, we get about 30 stories within a span of 30 hours from 12 midnight to around 3-4 in the morning. Therefore, so when that and we get about 30 stories here or there, posting every 50 minutes with headlines from various sources. And as you see what we have going on, and as the internet sees them popping up on the X and on the Facebook, people look at it, people see it, people engage in it, people comment, people share it, people read it. And the higher engagement a story gets, a link gets, I should say, because the stories can come from anywhere. The higher engagement it gets, better chance of talking about it. We choose for the Tuesday through Friday editions, top half of the 30 stories, 15, 16 stories. And then we choose 8 of those into narrative. Today was a special case where we put one in there that didn't have time to get any engagement, because it's a story for right now that need to be put in there. So we do have that caveat that is going to be a big story going forward, but it wasn't one that you had a chance to respond to. You have had a chance to respond to it now, because it's been live since we posted the live version of this video here. And so I'm pretty sure that the numbers will catch up. It will be a big responded video because respondent link, because everyone's on there. Oh, I'm rambling. I'm sorry. What are we actually teasing for tomorrow? What link would you might want to talk about if it's a good one? Now, anytime you go and see us, just click on whatever links there you like, love, hate, or want to share, and we'll get into it. But the NBA and Adam Silver suggesting that we could cut down the quarters of their games to 10 minutes, less game time, which would mean lower scores, mostly because there's less time to play, but also help move things along, speed things going forward, because it's amazing how much you shave a couple minutes off a quarter, they turn into less time when you have timeouts that make things go forever. You want to talk about it? Go to our feeds on Facebook and X, facebook.com/This Is the Conversation Project, and x.com/th_conversation. And as we post stories every 50 minutes or so, like, love, hate, share, let us know what you think about it, so we know if we need to think about covering it come tomorrow. Let's move on to our sponsor for the day. We're going to stick with books, at least for another day. Yesterday, all week and the tail end of last week, I promoted the book 100 Daily Affirmations that I published about 8-9 months ago. Now I'm talking about the book I published a few months ago, back in November, called the Now What Network Manifesto. And this is a companion book to the website I have called the Now What Network. And it is a website, and the book itself are ways for you to stay engaged, stay politically engaged, now that elections have been done and over. Now that the whole election cycle is done and we have a winner, and based on how you feel, a winner or a loser who's running the government, you can stay engaged to make sure the winner stays on track for things you want them to do, or the winner is reminded that the losers are so here or there as well. Now, it's meant to be a larger issue book. It's more towards politics and the engagement it's in general. So if you have an issue on local parties, same thing applies. You just use those same tactics there. It's a lot easier using local parties, and you can also build up your strength to do more national chit chat and complaining, if you will. But check out my book. It's got different tips for how you can stay engaged, even though it seems like it's harder, because there may not be people walking around asking your opinions right now because everyone wants to be bottled up about what they're saying. But you still need to be giving your opinion, giving your thoughts, giving your input on what's happening, because it's always important. Even if your guy won and your guy's doing exactly what you want him to do, it's important to make sure they know that, so to keep doing that stuff, and the people that you are out there trying to fight against it are there. It's a really weird book because it's basically taking a neutral stance on what's going on. It's the choose your own adventure version of, you want to be involved. You may like, not love, not love the person in charge or your government right now. Here's how you fix it. It doesn't say that the other people can't use the same tactics. It just gives you tactics that are fair, that are even-handed, that are not cheating or anything illegal, to do things to stay engaged. And a lot of it is just basically staying engaged to stay engaged. The time may not be right to act, but when the time comes, you need to know what's going on. So keeping up with information, making sure you're going to meetings, talking to folks who out there who have the know, is something to go forward. It's a $10 book on Amazon, or basically anywhere you find books, and it's a $5 book on a Kindle for electronic ebook. Go to the link inside this presentation or search for the Now What Network Manifesto by J. Clifton Payne and get this book today. And stop by our website, which is nowwhat.network, which offers up a weekly sort of narrative on this, plus other things to stay engaged with your political actions as they seem to go. Let's talk about the Conversation Project. The Conversation Project lives online at this. It's conversationproject.com. Tomorrow we'll hype up our partners a bit more, but you'll see their names scrolling at the bottom of the video at the moment. But this is a website. This is a movement. This is a thing I do to keep me sane. Quick, I'm going to do this quick because we're running late on time. This project, while now currently generating some revenue, now currently taking care of itself in a sense, is a long-standing project with a couple different lives, a couple different focuses, all about trying to get conversational things from you, all about trying to talk to you about things you want to talk about. And that is what this is all about. If you want to help out by becoming a partner, check out the partnerships page at the website. If you want to visit one of our sponsors, it costs you nothing extra to buy something, but we get a small commission from what you buy. That's great as well. The most important thing you can do is keep us conversational, actually keep us in conversation. And that is just by following us on our feeds. We talk about those four, Facebook and X, and engaging in the stories so that you can tell us what stories are more engaging, more conversational, if you will. Make sure to keep me a task and email me with what you want to chat up. I'm here available however you want me to be. We'll do what we can out there. You don't have to be a partner to get direct access. The partners do get a special line, if you will, and more details on what's going on in the background. But anyone can send an email, and anyone can comment in the comments and ask a question, and I will answer as best as possible. Email is better because I can go one-on-one. But if you have a question about what we're doing, not just a pop off about, you know, what I'm saying, pop it in the comments. We'll address it as best as we can. And with all that said and done, we are all done, because it's said, for Thursday, the 30th of January, 2025. My name is Jay Clifton Payne. I thank you so much for being a part of what we do here. And what we do here is have a conversation. It seems like a monologue because I'm just talking to you through the video screen, but I actually go through and read most of the comments, many as I can respond to all the ones that are really worth responding to, even some of the trolly ones, because sometimes those words go, and to get information. I'm learning so much about us, us Americans, us people in general, just from what you're saying. And I may not agree with it. I may even think some of it really doesn't make any sense. And some of you people have some issues, to be honest. But people have opinions. People need to be heard, and people need to be heard and seen. And this is how we'll do it here. This isn't CNN, Fox News, OAN, or anything large like that, a big, large-scale network that can give a lot of bandwidth to people. But what bandwidth I can, I'm glad to do. And it's also bandwidth that helps me literally stay sane in a world where the news, based on the biases of the business models of the major networks, is biased. It is. So thank you so much for joining us for this little experiment here. Help us grow so we can get more people in the conversation. I'm not saying I'm totally independent. You kind of get where my leanings go if you follow along enough. That some things are more right than others, some things more left than others. But we're here. I'm not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. And the world's going to keep turning. So while it is, let's have those conversations so we can actually understand each other a little better. Love you guys so much. Mean it so much. We're going to do this for one more day, one more wrap up of this thing of the days for Friday coming tomorrow, which happens to be Friday.